I'm Shadrach from Zentech Academy, and I welcome you to Zentech Media, where learning is simplified. Now, last week I began a series called Python for Data Analysis, and this is the beginner's level. Now, in today's video, I'm going to teach you variables in Python. Now, variables are containers that hold values. So you declare a variable and you assign a value to that variable. Now, the value can be either a string, talking about text, or it can also be an integer, talking about a whole number. Now, variables are very important when it comes to the fundamentals of Python. Now, Python is an object-oriented programming language. It is statically typed. And one good thing about Python is that you don't have to, when declaring a variable, you don't have to specify the data type. So that's one thing you should know about Python. Now, to declare a variable, you name the variable. So the variable is just a location. You're telling Python to create a space and then to name the space whatever it is you specify. And then you can assign a value that will be held in that particular space. For example, let's create a variable called x. So x is our variable, and then we use the equal sign to assign a value to the variable. So let's say we want x to be equal to 7. So we are telling Python to create a space and call that space x. Space x should hold the number 7. So now, wherever we make reference to x, so we are actually making reference to the number that is the value that is in that space. So the x itself is just the name of the space somewhere in Python's memory. So, and this is the value that is contained. So the variable is like a container holding this value. So now if I run this, now whenever we want to use the value 7, so we don't have to start typing 7. We can make reference to this variable by just typing in the name x. So when I type in x and run this, so we're going to get the value that we assigned to the variable. So this is how to declare a variable. Now, a variable can hold either an integer, as is the case here. So, but we can also hold a string. For example, let's say y. Let's name another variable. Let's call this y. Then y is equal to, I'm going to say, now to write a string, we're going to put the words in either a double quotation mark or a single quotation mark. So, but I'm using a double quotation mark. Let's say I am awesome. So this is our value. Now we're telling Python create a space called y, and in that y we want to put this value in that space. So if we want to make reference to this value, I am awesome, so we don't have to type in I am awesome, so we can simply type in y, and what we're going to get is I am awesome, because y is just a space, an imaginary space in Python's memory holding this particular value. All right, so let's run this. So I'm trying to make this as simple as possible because this is Zentech Media. We make learning easy. All right, so let's move on. So let's call y. So we are going to make reference to this value by typing in the variable name. So we can run this, and we're going to get I am awesome. You see, this is just it about variables. You are going to declare a variable by writing the variable name. You can create, tell Python to create a space and call it x. So it can be y, it can be whatever it is you want, although there are reserved words that you cannot use to, you cannot name your variable using those reserved words. I'm going to tell you some of them, and you can actually type on Google to just type in Python reserved words. I'm going to find a complete list of those. So, but for now, this is how to declare a variable. You type in the variable name, and then you assign a value. You type in the variable, and then you assign a value. So this is the variable, and this is the value. So a variable can contain a string, an integer. So since this is a beginner's tutorial, we're going to stick to integer and string for now. So you can see we declared this variable called x, and we assign the value 7 to the variable x. So here we declare a variable and we name the variable y, and then we assign the value I am awesome to this variable y. So this I am awesome is a string. So this is a string, while x is containing an integer. So if you want to check the type, we could use an inbuilt function. We could say type. Then let's do x. Now to run, you can actually do a shift enter to run. So you can see this, the type here is integer. So this is the data type. So I'm not going to go deep into data type. So I'm going to cover it in another video. So now for y, so we could also do the same thing. We could do a type, then y. So I'm going to do shift enter. So you can see y is a string. So this is how to declare a variable and assign a value to it. So this is it. Now in Python, variables are objects. And every object that is created is given a number that uniquely identifies that variable. So for example, we could also reassign a variable. For example, we could say, okay, x should be equal to, let's say 5. And let's do a shift enter. Now, I'm going to do, let's do x, shift enter. So you can see s is no longer, initially we declare s to be 7. So this variable x is 7. So now we reassign the value. So this is the value. We reassign the value of this variable. So it's no longer 7, but here we are reassigning the value. So we want it to be 5. So when we make reference to that particular variable, we have 5 since we have already reassigned the value here. So this is it. Now, what I'm talking about are objects, that variables are objects in Python. So, and they are uniquely identified. For example, we have a variable here called y, and we also have a variable x. So we could do something like, I could use the inbuilt function id. Then I'm going to do x. So let's do shift enter. All right, so this is the ID for this x. So we could do ID, let's do for y. So do a shift enter. So you can see the value. So you can see this is the ID, the ID value for it. So you can see that for x here. So let's do x is equal to, let's say 3. Let's do a shift enter. Now let's check the ID for x. Is it still the same? X. So I'm going to do a shift enter. All right, so you can see that the ID here has changed. The reference now is this is the ID. This is the current ID for it. So let's do an x is equal to 5, shift enter. Then I'm going to do ID, x, shift enter. All right, so you can see that this is the same thing as it is here. So, but when you reassign the value, it creates another ID. You can see. So you can see this ID is the same as the one here. All right, so now you can see that every variable that is created is given a number that uniquely identifies it. So we can also check the type of the variable. So we can do type x. So I'm going to do shift enter. So you can see that x is an integer. So we can also do a type y. I'm going to do shift enter. So y is a string, as you can see. So y here is a string, and x is an integer, even though we've reassigned it a couple of times. So, but it is an integer. Okay, let me add more cells. So to add more cells, to insert cells below the one highlighted, we can just click on here. All right, so now let's look at our naming convention for our naming variables. So you can name variable as x. You can name it as a word. You can name it as anything, but there are conventions that you need to stick to. So the 3 convention I'm going to show you here is, we have the camel case. So the camel case is just, let me say, I'm going to do a product name. So I'm going to say Toyota. So product name Toyota. we created a file. So now you can see this is a variable product name, and the value is a Toyota. Now, what I'm concerned is the naming. So you can see here I use product. So product is this, then name. So for camel case, the first word is going to be all lowercase, but the initial of the second or third or whatever word you decide to add to it will be capitalized. So the initial, the first letter in any other words that will follow is going to be capitalized. So for example, again, we could do something like item, batch, let's say batch number equal to 1134 equal to 1143. So as you can see, the first the first letter of this word is lowercase, but every other word after the first word, the initial of each of the word is capitalized. So this is called the camel case. Now another one like it is the Pascal case. So in the Pascal case, I'm going to copy. In fact, I'm going to copy this. So I'm going to paste this here. Now it's just like the camel case, except that all the initial of every word is capitalized. So the P here is going to be capitalized. So that's just it for the Pascal case. So the same for this. So I'm going to copy this, do Control C, and come here and do Control V. So the item, the I in item for Pascal in Pascal naming convention is going to be capitalized. So this is going to be I. So you can see, so now this is the Pascal naming convention, and this is the camel case. Now the third convention is the snake case. In the snake case, so for product name, we're going to do a product, then you're going to use an underscore to separate the word name. So this is equal to, we could say, same Toyota. So this is for the snake case. So the same for, let's do the product batch. Okay, I'm just going to type it, item underscore batch. So you separate each word with an underscore number. All right, so this is going to be equal to 1143. So you can see, so this first two are camel case, while for this is the Pascal case, and this is the snake case. So I'm going to insert more cells. Now, one other thing I'm going to show you is the reserved words in Python. Though you could use any of these naming conventions, so but there are some rules when it comes to naming variables in Python. So you cannot start a variable with a number, for example. I cannot do something like 3 products equal to whatever. So you can't do something like that. You cannot start naming a variable with a number. You can start with an underscore. So, and another thing is you cannot separate two words with a dash. For example, I can't do something like, for example, products. You can't say product dash name. So you cannot do something like this, product dash name. In fact, let's run this so that you can see what I'm saying. So you can see syntax error, cannot assign to expression here. So this is wrong. So we cannot do something like this. So, but you can use the underscore to separate so we can run this. All right, so when we call to this, we can do copy and paste this here. So we can do this. Then when we run this, we can get Toyota. So you can see this is it. Now, there are also other words we cannot use to name variables. So they are called Python keywords. For example, we cannot use false. We cannot use def. We cannot use if. We cannot use else. You cannot use, and you can see when I type this word, you can see some of them are already in capital. They are kind of the color change, showing that they are reserved words. For example, so this, the F is in capital, so you can see. So any word that you type that gives you this color means that it is a keyword. It's a Python keyword, so you cannot use. Now there are about 33 reserved keywords in Python. So these are just a few of them. So you are going to find a link in the description. So you to take it to a site where you can see the complete list. Now, so this tutorial basically covers basic Python variables. Now, in the next lesson, we're going to look at data types in Python. So do watch out for that particular video. All right, so if you have not subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss when the next video comes out. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next lesson.